4.9 million undocumented immigrants would be benefiting from this legislation. So it's something that is urgent that we need to pass. About 18,000 people in Iowa alone would be benefiting from DAPA, and that's over the number of people that live in Indianola. So that says a lot. So today, the states will be arguing. There are 26 states that are working against DAPA, and they're arguing about the burden that DAPA puts on these states because they'll benefit from social programs, etc., which is the truth BS. Because we know that these people are contributing members of society, and they are the parents of students and hardworking young adults who are also contributing to this country, who have a lot to offer. And if we don't give their parents an opportunity to be there, what does that say about us? What are we saying as a country that doesn't value keeping families together, that doesn't value offering opportunities for young adults and for their parents to continue to prosper in a country who supposedly is founded on that principle? So personally, I have a father who is a citizen. My mother is a permanent resident, but she wasn't always. When I was younger, she and my dad were separated for almost a year, and were contemplating a divorce. That didn't happen because my mom was dependent on my father, porque no tenía papeles. She couldn't find a job. We moved away from, we moved out from my dad's home, and I was 8 years old. My brother was 6, and then we had a little brother that was about a year old. My mom tried to be an independent woman, but couldn't do it because no one would hire her porque no tenía papeles. And there are millions of people that are like that. They're caring mothers and fathers who want to provide for their families who can't because of this stupid legislation, right? And so I appreciate it that you're all here today, and just keep raising awareness on what's going on, and keep supporting your neighbors that know that need it. So thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Monica Reyes, and I'm also part of DreamIowa. I just have a little message from 2 people that submitted that would qualify for DAPA. One is a father and husband, father of 2, and here's his message for why DAPA is important to him. When I currently go to work in the morning, I always tell my loved ones that I love them, because I have fear that I might not come back. Even though I have lived here since I was young and have grown up in the U.S. like every other citizen, I feel less than for not having the same opportunities. I can't have a better salary or pay because of my status, or something as simple as taking my family on vacation without having the fear of being pulled over. So even though I have lived in this country for 16 years, the country of opportunity, my hopes are in the hands of politicians. These politicians can come together and make these things come true for me. So when asked if the Supreme Court ruling will play a role in my future, the answer is yes, financially yes, to my well-being and my family. And another message, and this one's from my mom, who would also qualify for DAPA, and a single mother of 4. Her message for why it is important for her is, the first and most important reason why the Supreme Court ruling is important to me is because it would relieve the daily anguish of ICE separating me from my children, which are the most important part of my life. I would be able to drive without fear of not having a driver's license. I would be able to have a better job that would allow me to spend more time with my family. I would get to live with more dignity and not considered a criminal for simply wanting to provide a better future for my children. DAPA would help so many families and parents live without the fear of separation. And for me personally, I know what DACA or any sort of protections can help people with. For me personally, within a year of having DACA, I was able to buy a house for my mom, and first thing I got was, as soon as I got the approval, I went and applied for a Social Security card, and then I went and got a driver's license, and then I got a better job. I work with Dora. It's a pretty awesome job. Super bomb. It's just, I have had so many opportunities just from having this simple protection every 2 years. And I want the same thing for all of these other people. For now, it's only DAPA, it's only the parents of American citizens and residents. But hopefully we will get everyone, even the ones that are parents of dreamers like myself. Because even though DAPA would help 4.9 million people, there's still 5 to 6 million people that are left in the shadows, and we cannot forget them. And I would also like to talk a little bit about the parents and people that came here as older, maybe as adults. I was brought here when I was 3 years old, and I know many times people say that it's okay that I get documentation because I didn't make the choice to come here, so why should I be responsible for it? I think that is a bogus reason. I think that anybody that comes here, whether they were an adult or a child, should have the same opportunities. I would not be anywhere where I am now had it not been for my mom. She willingly left the only country she knew, the only culture she knew, the only language she was familiar with, to come to a foreign land to provide a better future for her children. If this country doesn't want people like her living here, that sends a huge message to people around the world. So I hope that this country does realize that and has goes back to its old values of accepting immigrants, right? As for DreamIowa, actually, I wanted to invite Joe Henry first before I summarize everything. But would you like to say a few words? Yep.
Yeah, I'll just say it again. LULAC National is with you all. We've been fighting this fight with the Dreamers. We had a legislative event back in February. We received an update from the attorneys there. They're hopeful that this decision on the lower courts will be overturned because they felt that the Supreme Court justice who passed away was the one that was going to make things turn back. So with the existing justices on the court right now, they feel that there's a very good possibility that this ruling will be overturned. We're hopeful. So National LULAC was there this morning at the hearing. We have, of the 1,000 councils that we have over 300 councils in Texas where this decision held. They would fight very hard, still try to change things. So we stand with you all. Another thing that we're fighting on, and last week I was in Gary, Indiana. I'll be back there tomorrow, is fighting the construction of detention centers. So we hope to get that stopped in Gary, Indiana, and wherever that evil type of thing crops up. So we're with you all. So thank you.
And I created a list a while back of some of the problems that undocumented immigrants have to live with, and I just kind of wanted to go over them so we can realize why DAPA is so important. For me, I remember when I had no protection, no DACA, even something as simple as driving was a huge stress because you not only do you not have a driver's license and you'd be breaking the law, but just the economic pain of that, like every ticket is like 300 something. So if you keep being pulled over and over and over again, after so many times of you being pulled over, and if you don't get your tickets paid on time, I don't know if you guys know this, but the state suspends your license. Even though you don't have a license, it'll go on the record that you have a suspended license. So if you get pulled over, they can arrest you, right? And a lot of people don't know that. Just recently, in the middle, I think it was in the beginning of February, I had to go pick someone up from jail at 3 a.m. and she's a single mother whose husband was just recently deported, because she was on her way to work and someone ran into her. It was really bad, the roads were really bad. Someone crashed into her because they were speeding, but she's the one that ended up in jail, okay? It's a serious issue, which is why we need to support driver's licenses for undocumented immigrants here in the state of Iowa. But even like something as simple as having an ID, to use at the bank, to use at government offices, or labor too. even though I am her daughter, and even though I, would never put up with a whole lot of stuff, she unfortunately doesn't have that same empowerment and doesn't stand up for herself as much as she should. But I understand why, the fear. But she gets her wages robbed all the time. She works unbelievably crazy. She works way more than 40 hours a week. And sometimes she doesn't get paid when she's supposed to be regularly paid. Sometimes she can go a whole month without getting paid before her employer finally does give her money. And she's not the only person. I know that there's a lot of people out there. And it could be verbal, physical, sexual, stolen wages, tips, no overtime. That's a huge one. People don't get paid for overtime. Exploitation. Growing up, I knew I was Latina, but then I knew I was a second, I was the lowest of the lowest because I was undocumented. So even within our own community, there's a class system. And for that, all of us have the power to do something about that, because as Latinos, we have to treat each other with respect and not differently just because we're undocumented. When I was, even as a little kid, I knew I was, I would call myself Mojada, una ilegal. I just accepted it, and I thought it was completely normal and that I was less than everyone else, even my own family, because I was undocumented and they had papeles. Harder to buy a house and a car, build credit, something as simple as vehicle registration. In the state of Iowa, if you're undocumented, you can't even register your own vehicles under your own name. So if you have to borrow someone else's documentation to do that, guess what? That person can literally take off with that car, and everything on record says it's theirs and not yours. So super susceptible to exploitation. Living not knowing the feeling of being part of a community at a large. I know for the longest time my mom would always tell me, don't tell anybody, just stay quiet. So I always felt like I was living in the shadows. Depression and anxiety, that's another one that I think is not talked about enough. Undocumented immigrants have to deal with so much stress and so much being let down and being put down that it really can be very damaging to their emotional self. So I think that's something depression and anxiety is very normal. Fear of persecution, involuntary guilt. For me, it was ni de aquí ni de allá. So I was born in Mexico, but not really raised there. And here, I've been raised here, but I'm not even part of it really. To me, Iowa has been somewhere that I call home, but unfortunately, I feel like, and sometimes not even the state has done a whole lot to welcome people like myself, which is why we have to, again, jump on board with some of the things that are going on. But just to sum it up, as for DreamIowa, despite whatever happens with DAPA, whether they say, great, let's do it, or no, we're not going to do this, and despite whatever happens today, we are moving forward regardless of the injunction, and we're still going to be educating the community about DACA and DAPA, how to get ready, how to start preparing their documents. I have a list up here for anybody that would like to take some. It's in Spanish of things that people can put together and start preparing for the DAPA application based on DACA guidelines, which will be basically the same. Immigrant families and workers will continue to get ready for the registration for DAPA. And to us, this lawsuit is really just a fear tactic to scare eligible immigrants from applying for DAPA. Honestly, it's really, if people don't apply for it, the program's going to fail, right? The success of the program is based on people applying for it. And with all of this confusion, people think that it's already failed. There's so much confusion out there in the community. So we're going to keep going and keep educating people on it. And we are confident that the Supreme Court will reject this hateful lawsuit. And we just know that millions of families are ready to come forward and want to be fully part of the American dream. That's all. I don't know if anybody else would like to add anything. So thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. I know it was very last minute, but we had to do something, right?